Hi everyone, I'm going to be discussing effective instruction in history social science classes. So to begin, instruction that works. So you want to make sure you vary your instructional methods and strategies and provide multiple entry points into every subject or lesson. So for example, using analogies, in a history class, you could say daily life in the Civil War was like, and make a comparison to that. And you also want to have students make inductions, deductions, and inferences and draw conclusions. So when reviewing a specific president and their major decisions, you can draw conclusions about what kind of leader they were, either Jefferson, Lincoln, any type of president in a history class. You also want to employ a range of instructional modes. So construct, provide materials, and ask students to design and create an original project. So for example, this week my students are going to be working on Lewis and Clark journals, so creative writing in 8th grade US History and Geography class. And then you also want to use a variety of group formats and configurations. So for example, having students turn and talk to their seat partner about what they think was meant in a primary source document, such as a speech, like Jefferson's inauguration speech. And you also want to teach students, teach students how to think, learn, and remember, and cultivate different types of and aspects of intelligence in all students. So in group projects, in a history class, students can choose which roles best fit their interests, strengths. For example, the set designer could be responsible for creating a stage when reenacting a scene from history. And to instill key habits of mind in students to help them succeed in school and life. So responding critically to what they read. For example, in an 11th grade US history class, students can examine rhetorical devices used in World War II propaganda posters. And you also want to assess understanding and use the results to improve your teaching. So assess students before teaching to determine their current knowledge and skill levels. And this can be used in a history social science class by implementing a graphic organizer such as a KWL chart to find out what students know already about the Depression or the Civil Rights Movement or Cold War, etc. And you also want to use multiple means and measures to assess students' performance. So in an 8th grade US history class, a teacher can use evidence from various formal and informal formative assessments to assess students' understanding of key ideas about the Civil War. And you also want to use the right tools and technology to enhance instruction. So for example, you want to choose the tools or technology most appropriate to the instructional situation, such as in a history class, giving students a graphic organizer to help students consider a subject from different sides and recognizing that bias. So moving forward, for classroom culture, you want to support all students to ensure success. So differentiate whenever possible by providing a range of problems, texts, or projects to choose from. So in a social studies class, a teacher can let students choose from an article, a local paper, or a primary source on a historical event such as World War II, and each one being more difficult than the other, but they're still receiving those main ideas and knowledge. You also want to use different methods, strategies, and configurations, and employ a range of instructional modes. So this includes reading, writing, speaking, visually representing, and physically enacting or constructing. So students in a history social science class can read about a historical event such as the Lewis and Clark expedition, discuss it in their groups, write their journals, draw illustrations, and create posters, and use total physical response to act out scenes from the journal, for example. I also want to maintain a safe, productive learning environment and establish and maintain high expectations for quality of work and behavior. So this includes providing examples of what a successful performance looks like. So in a history social science class, a teacher can put on the overhead and analyze aloud a sample essay from a previous exam to better prepare students for the next one. You also want to cultivate a safe, respectful environment at all times and evaluate your own materials for language or content that might upset or offend students. So I found this very relatable to history classes. So you want to make sure you evaluate your curriculum for the treatment or absence of women, people of color, and other groups. So while student teaching history, for example, I try my best to include perspectives of women and people of color because so much of what students learn in history is rooted in Eurocentrism. So you also want to consider students' developmental needs and create outlets for physical energy. For example, bring movement into the classroom. So total physical response is awesome to use. So for example, you can use it when reviewing Bill of Rights, and you allow students to act out texts and historical events as well. So let them use that energy that they have. You also want to celebrate student success in and out of the classroom. So this includes displaying, publishing, or featuring students' work in class. So in my student teaching placement, my guide teacher has a section on his wall where he posts student work. And last month it was amendment posters. This month it's posters on the ideals of Hamilton and Jefferson. And next will be the students' Lewis and Clark journals. As for curriculum basics, you want to teach skills and knowledge in context. So organize instruction into patterns for maximum effectiveness. And you can do this by identifying verbs that characterize the different stages of the instructional pattern. So in a history class, students might generate causes and effects of a movement, a war, etc., then evaluate which are most important, then analyze how these few events culminated in the movement, war, or etc. You also want to organize your instruction around big ideas and essential questions, and consider ideas and questions from different perspectives. So, for example, when talking about the American Revolution in 8th grade U.S. history, you can propose the big idea or essential question of, is war ever just, or when is war justified? And you want to ask students to consider how different groups would explain or respond to an event, idea, or text. So in a social studies class, this might mean asking students to examine how different people saw an event like the Holocaust, or how different groups would respond to certain economic policies, for example. You also want to help students make connections and generate a variety of types of connections. So in history, students can compare the French Revolution to the American Revolution, and even to the Communist Revolution in China. You also want to design lessons and units for maximum learning and engagement. So you want to cultivate independence to instructional practices and give students tools and strategies to use. So in a social studies class, for example, a teacher might use a tool such as the KWL organizer when reading about something that students may already know about. This is also a good way to clear up any misconceptions students may have about the historical topic or event as well. Thank you.